Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar today. We are EBS, your experienced technology partner for over 44 years. We specialise in the deployment of Sage Business Management and Microsoft solutions, managed services and secure on-premises and cloud-based infrastructure. My name is Darren Tolley and I am one of the account managers here at EBS. Today we are joined by our partner Draycir, and I would like to extend a warm welcome to Ross Barker, who will take us through how you can see who's got your money and how you can get paid by your customers more quickly. We are recording today's presentation and we'll make this available to you in the next few days. There are lots of recordings on our YouTube channel. Remember to hit subscribe to receive notifications when we load new videos. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, or there will be an opportunity at the end of the session in the Q&A session. So let's get this show on the road. Over to you, Ross.
Thank you, Darren, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for your time. As Darren said, we're a partner of EBS, a long-standing partner, I might add. And by way of brief introduction to Draycir, we are 21, 22 years old now, come February this year. We are a software developer working within the Sage space as well as other ERPs. We have customers globally in 54 countries and about 144,000 bums on seats using the Draycir software on a day-to-day basis. So should any of you move forward with the solutions we're here to see this morning, you'd certainly be in very good company. What we're here to see this morning is predominantly our Credit Hound Cloud offering, which is our advanced credit control software to enable you to be paid faster by your customers, and it houses all of the information you're likely to need from a credit control perspective throughout that working day. But in advance of that, we're also going to have a look at our new PayThem update, which is essentially our payment links that can sit within your invoices, your statements, your sales order acknowledgements if needs be, and again allowing you the opportunity to get paid faster by your customers from that initial stage of sending out the invoice. So let's proceed and we'll start from that very point. So I'm just going to send out an invoice which had already been configured in the back office to include our PayThem details. And when I say PayThem, as I mentioned, it's an instant payment link that sits within any document type that you may wish to have that configured for, be it a sales order acknowledgement, be it an invoice, be it a statement. Now that's very simply linked to your payment processor account, be it a WorldPay, a Stripe, or a Draycir Pay powered by Total Processing, which we can come back to towards the end of the call, and Darren can certainly provide you some more details on. So if I just look to print an invoice this morning, as I say, we're not going to go through that whole process of adding an order, but in true Blue Peter style, here's one I prepared earlier. So we'll just send this invoice out so you can see there's no smoke and mirrors this morning. Just take a second for our other product spindle to kick into gear, which is the delivery mechanism behind all of the documentation that we send out and also archive as part of that process. So we're just going to post an invoice and that will kick through to my drafts inbox in just a few seconds. Within that email, not only will you see a copy of the invoice as you would expect to see, we can include your branding, livery, stationery set of any kind, as well as any messaging. So as you can see here, Dear Hayley Bash, your invoice 5086 was processed on the 7th of the 12th. Now we can hyperlink that payment link within the body of the email, or alternatively, we can include that within the invoice copy as well, if that's your preference. Again, really up to you how that's configured. But ultimately, that instant payment link, or the Pay Now button, as we often refer to it, can also carry whatever visual you wanted to. So rather than it say Pay Now, it could potentially say View Invoice or View Payment Details. Again, that's something that can be configured. But essentially, I am a customer. I've received an email to say, here is a copy of your invoice. I've clicked on that invoice where I then access that payment link. As you can see, that then opens up a payment window as we see here. And I've got the details of the invoice that is about to be paid. If I simply click on next step, I can then pay by card. We are just about to introduce open banking as a payment method as well, and direct debit payments are very fast approaching down the track, which Darren will be happy to give you an update on in due course. I'm just going to pop my details in here and actually make payment on this invoice so we can see what that looks like within the PayThem portal in due course, and then we'll look to chase a couple of those outstanding invoices and show you the credit control piece. But just from a life cycle of that invoice, almost from kind of cradle to grave, you've sent that out from Sage 200 or your finance package. The customer have received that by email. It's included those instant payment links. As a customer, I've chosen to click on that link and make payment now. And as you can see, that is now paid successfully. And that's as straightforward as that process gets. Now, what that looks like for you internally, you would have access to what we call the PayThem portal. So this is you, this is your ability to then see all of those transactions that have gone out with a payment request. Now, I won't go through all of these menu options here this morning. As I say, if you wanted a one-to-one demonstration, we can go into much more detail for you. But you can see here the recent successful payments from 11/24, so literally 1 minute ago, of £1,079.93. Okay, so you've got that full update of the payments that you have received, so you can keep track of that. I just very quickly jump into my payment requests, however. You can see here we've got a number of payment requests. Some are open, some have been completed. And these requests are very simply those invoices, those sales order acknowledgements, those statements that have gone out with a pay now button in it or a payment link for your customers to be able to kind of make instant payment. Now, as I say, you can use your filters in here. If you're looking for a particular customer in mind, you don't need to type the full customer name. It will pull through the relevant details. Again, you could also search by date as you would expect and use the filters accordingly. We've also got further information with regards to payment transaction, a full list of your accounts, a list of your banks, payment providers. You could also include settlement discounts as a global setting or a particular category of customer, or even late payment fees within there as well. And just to show you how flexible the software is, if I was just to jump into, in fact, let's open up one of the Abbey retail payment requests now. So £11,305. And if I click on the icon, the I icon rather, on the right hand side, you'll see it pulls me through all of the information about that payment request that has gone out, as you can see here. I can internally then click on that payment link also. So if I wanted to see that payment link, or if I do take payment over the phone and I'm speaking to a customer that says, happy to pay now over the phone, can I give you those details? Well, as an internal member of staff, you could of course click on that link and look to make payment as well, as you can see there. Alternatively, you may just want to copy that link and forward it through in another email so that the customer can pay at a later date. Now, I'm not going to go through everything within the PayThem portal this morning. As I say, that's probably more of a one-to-one session, and we can go through that in more detail. But just to show you the flexibility within that piece, if I take any one of these transactions, and we'll use the, we'll go with George Gray Construction here, for example. Now, if I just open up that transaction detail, again, you see I've got further information on whether there's any settlement offers there, any payment allocations, late payment fees, also any documentation that's already archived as part of the process that we've been through earlier on. But I can add a settlement discount after the fact. So again, we'll come to the credit control piece in 1 second, but this is really useful, particularly if you're having a conversation with George Gray Construction for a £1,700 outstanding debt that still hasn't been paid, and you want payment on immediately. Well, as a credit control team, you might wish to offer them a settlement discount if they can pay, let's say, within the next 24 hours. So we'll give that a discount of, say, 2% if paid by the 8th of December. And once that's added, even though the invoice went out many weeks ago, even though the link is live and the customer already has that link, essentially by clicking on that link again, that discount will now be applied. So just keep your eyes on the 1718 amount. If I just pull up that payment request for George Gray, that's that one there, I think, isn't it? Was that the one? Let's have a look. It's either that one or the one beneath it. There we go. Look, a 2% discount if paid before the 8th. And again, then I could then take steps to make payment. So it just gives you that flexibility with those invoices, with those payment requests that have already gone out. It's not set in stone. You can interact with that after the fact. And of course, you could also provide your customers with the ability to see that document as well. So as I say, that's kind of just showing you how that invoice has been sent out from, in my example, Sage 200. It was received by your customer by email, copy invoice as well as a payment link in the body of the email. The customer chose to make payment there and then. Perfect for you, paid instantly. But even if they didn't pay instantly, you have access to the PayThem portal where you can see all of that information, all of those payment requests, all of the information regards transaction detail, and you can also interact with those details thereafter. Okay. Second part of the demonstration this morning, of course, is to have a look at our Credit Hound Cloud offering, which is our newest offering, and we're happy to provide you with a 30-day trial of the software should you be interested. Darren will send these details through to you after the call, but very simply just register interest and we can get those credentials sent through to you. The Credit Hound Cloud is accessed from a desktop, as you can see here, a full announcement kit within that login screen. So any updates, because we are frequently making updates to the features and functionality, are detailed here, so you always kept in the loop with those updates. Okay, once logged into Credit Hound Cloud, you'll see a dashboard view which looks something a little bit like this. And as I say, this is almost the second part of this morning's session, so we can look to, as I say, chase those outstanding payments and show you how Credit Hound can support you in that. I guess just before we move forward, Darren, were there any questions regards the invoicing, payment links and PayThem portal process we've been through so far?
Yeah. In terms of the PayThem option, what's the sort of transport mechanism in terms of the bank, if you like? Does it work with a payo, or what other options are there?
Really good question, whoever that was. So we work with a number of payment processors, payment providers. You mentioned a couple there, or the attendee did. So WorldPay, Stripe, Payo, Elevon, as well as Draycir Pay, which is powered by Total Processing. And just by way of comparison, your standard fees with Stripe and WorldPay are 1.5% and a 20 pence gateway. With Draycir Pay, powered by Total Processing, we can actually better your rates at 1.2% and also 16 pence per gateway click. So it's a really good opportunity, not only being able to use the PayThem functionality to get paid faster, to improve that process of getting paid. We can also benefit you in terms of saving money on those monthly payment processor fees as well. So yeah, any interest on that side of things, again, just let you know after the call, Darren. We can pick up a call with them and certainly go through that and maybe in a bit more detail. But yeah, we can. There's a number of ways, but we can certainly save you some money on that on a monthly basis as well.
Yeah, one other question is, can the PayThem button be put onto a pro forma invoice?
It can, yes, absolutely. So yeah, for those customers that don't have a credit account, or it might simply not be applicable, in that case, yeah, absolutely. We can put that Pay Now button on pro forma invoices, sales order acknowledgements, invoices, statements, kind of pretty much wherever you want it to go.
And on the basis from what you've shown so far, you can actually effectively take the payment live, as it were. Although there's a process to go through, obviously, this would sort of negate the need for a PDQ device, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the beauty, which is why I showed you that kind of ability to interact with the payment request even after it's gone out, is to kind of show you that flexibility. So your kind of standard process for kind of configuration would be you include your pay now button, the PayThem details within the invoice is sent out. In a perfect world, your customer clicks on that link and pays immediately. But obviously every company is different, and so having the ability to interact with that payment request after the fact, maybe add any settlement discount in there if you wanted to, almost like an early payment benefit, a late payment fee potentially. Your internal staff have access to the payment link as well, so they could take payment live, as you said, or over the telephone, or in person. You know, if it was goods to be collected, for example, from from store, from maybe a kind of a warehouse facility or yard. Again, there's plenty of options. Any other questions at all on that part, Darren? Is that all okay?
No, that's it so far. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for those questions, whoever they were from. Good to know the information's all sinking in. So yes, kind of second part of the call, really, if you think about it logically, is that, as I say, the invoice has gone out with the payment details, the PayThem details within it, and perfect for your customers to then make payment immediately or have the ability to pay, whenever they want to, or as part of that terms and conditions that they have with you. Credit Hound Cloud almost comes into effect a little bit later down the line, doesn't it? Because essentially this is our advanced credit control software, giving you the opportunity to chase all of your customer transactions with communications at whatever stage of your collection path that you want to configure. So I'll go through some of the menu options at the top. They're fairly self-explanatory, but I'll just very quickly explain the dashboard to you in the premise of Credit Hound Cloud. Credit Hound Cloud is designed to take what is a notoriously admin-heavy process and flip it on its head. The majority of customers we would speak to, their credit control process pretty much consists of running off an aged debtors report, filtering that with the greatest values at the top, and the credit control team working their way down that list. Of course, as soon as you've run off that report, it's out of date. And actually, how far down that report do your credit control team get? It's natural that they start with the greatest values, obviously. But if that report is 3, 4, 5, 6 pages long, where do they get to? And what you find is that if you have that same process every single day, it's the same accounts at the top of that list that get chased. What happens to all of those maybe smaller transactions and that just naturally become 10 days overdue, 11 days, 12, because they're further down that report? And obviously a collective of all of those values can be quite significant. Credit Hound doesn't discriminate. It will contact every single customer wherever their transaction sits within the chase cycle, be it a friendly reminder notification, be it a chase after 5 days overdue, 7 days, 10 days, whatever it might be. But it can go one step further. It can also populate your credit control team's diary with some tasks and some calls to make if that's the kind of the preference of contact as well. The dashboard is a collective of all of the information that you're likely to need on a day-to-day basis. So rather than having to run off all of those reports, I can immediately see how much overdue balance is, or who has my money in terms of like a rogues gallery, my top 8 accounts in terms of outstanding debt, a snapshot into my mini age receivables, my mini age debtors, who has paid me in the last 7 days, where is my money by category. And it's an interactive dashboard, so if I click into any one of those areas, it will pull through a list of accounts that make up that particular category. And in this case, I could then click on the columns in question to filter them accordingly. You might have a preferential view of your overdue column being next to your balance. You might wish to search for certain customers, so I can add my filters in accordingly. Works on a quick word search. I don't need to type in the full account, as you can see. Now, if I come into Credit Hound, I'm in my overdue category. I might see that these 3 customers have broken the £40,000 overdue amount. Well, actually, I might then want to change their collection path. So rather than be on collection path 1, I might wish to change them to an escalation collection path where they are contacted via Credit Hound, and essentially that references the legal steps that you're about to take to potentially retrieve that payment. So a number of ways that you can interact with them. And of course, you can export that information out to Excel if that was something you needed in advance of another meeting internally. Again, I can click into any one of my customer accounts from here and it will pull through all of the information regards that customer account, a full activity, date and timestamp, audit history of not only my interaction with this particular customer, but also Credit Hound's. If I was to click into any individual transaction, it will give me an update of the audit history, the touch points for that individual transaction. I'll come back to the customer account screen in a moment though. As part of the dashboard, we've just released, through our partnership with Experian, a business health dashboard as well, which gives you the ability to see how your business is doing from a risk point of view, whether that be in terms of your high, medium and low risk customers, by age debt risk or by industry or your debtor days. Again, you've got all of this information at your fingertips. No additional cost for this at all. It just forms part of your Credit Hound standard subscription. And again, you could keep a monitor of this and you may wish to then include those customers in a slightly different collection path, particularly if they've moved into that high risk category for any reason, i.e. you might want to chase them much more frequently than your low risk customers. You can also buy credit reports through Credit Hound as well. Again, pleased to say that it's a cheaper rate than you going direct to Experian for that. We do have a special offer at the moment. Obviously, this is a recorded December 23, but there is a special offer at present. So again, if that is something that you choose to proceed with, you can benefit from that at the moment. But a really, really useful update. We'll just walk through these tabs very, very quickly. So our invoices, full list of invoices. We can use the quick tiles then to pull through or filter those other items we need to see. You'll see there's a series of icons here. The little phone icon is if it's got a call already logged to it. The little handshake icon is if there's already a promise to pay, i.e. that promise to pay has been logged, or the exclamation mark references a dispute that's already been logged. And again, you can just very simply use the quick filters to get through to those particular invoices that you may well be searching for. Again, you can include your filters and export that information if you wish. We've also got a full list of your customer accounts here, and it will give you a brief summary of their account. And again, as I've said before, maneuver the columns accordingly so you've got the information that you wish to see. Your age receivables, your age debt report, as I said from the dashboard, is accessible in almost that snapshot view where you can click into the individual collection buckets or periods, i.e. 30, 60, 90, 120 days. But this is then that full report where you've got access to all of that information. Your collection path is where Credit Hound really earns its money. And a collection path is what you want Credit Hound to do in terms of collecting or attempting to collect those payments. So I've very simply got a collection path 1 set up. It's a default collection path that includes all of these stages. A friendly email sent out 7 days before the due date. We then send a chase email 1 day, overdue 7, 14 and 21. And we use the templates that we've already configured in Credit Hound to very easily set this up as quickly as needs be. You'll see the schedule that Credit Hound is currently scheduled to chase towards, as well as amounts and times for collection path 1. But I'll show you very quickly how easy it is to set up a collection path. So if I use, we'll go with EBS customers this morning, we'll say that we only want to chase on Monday to Thursday, because if anybody's going to be out of the office, it's typically a Friday, and you might well have spoken to your marketing team and they've said, well, the best time to interact with your customers would be 10:30 a.m. in the morning, for example. So set the time whichever you think is best. Again, you might also have a minimum amount that you want to chase. So any transaction that's less than £1, you might not want to chase your customers for, or the amount remaining on an outstanding transaction, for example. We can then add our first action. In this case, we're going to we'll send the first reminder. We're going to send ours 5 days before the due date. We'll use a template that we'd have already configured as part of that initial configuration stage. Anything you see with a sky blue backdrop is dynamic data pulled directly through from your ERP by way of contact name, transaction type, numbers, dates, etc. There's a Pay Now button that, of course, we've already been through our PayThem links, and we simply add that action. If I then wanted to send a follow-up email to that one, so we'll send, we'll just call this one EBS customers, and we'll chase that one 5 days after the due date. Because it's an overdue contact, we'll use the friendly overdue template that we've already got configured, because this is the first chase we've made, and we'll add that action. One is green, one is red. That's because that's in advance of payment being due. This is for those that are overdue. We're also going to add a task into our list as well. So we're going to we'll say that this one is our first chase, and we'll say we'll chase this one 10 days after due date. Autocomplete task is really useful, because if I've got a task in my diary but payment is made maybe 1 day, 2 days before that task was due, it will automatically remove that task from my task list and my calendar, which I'll come back to in a moment. But you can see I've added that task as well. Now, if I click save, that is as straightforward as creating a collection path gets for you moving forward. So now, in theory, all of your customers' transactions, wherever they sit within that particular chase cycle, will be contacted accordingly, dependent on their collection path. And if I just jump back into our customer list, and again, I'll go with the, we'll just use the airport catering service as an example. You see they're currently on collection path 1. These have got an overdue balance now of £47,000. Again, I might want to change their collection path to EBS customers, and now they're on a different collection path to all of my other customers. So you can see how easy it is to toggle between that as well. I just wanted to double check before we go any further, Darren. Any questions coming as part of the Credit Hound process so far, or are we all okay to proceed?
I think we're all okay. I can't see any questions coming in at the moment. It all seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, no, that's great. So we'll just jump into the task as well, because as I say, I mentioned with that collection path that we've just configured, we did also create a task, i.e. if that particular transaction invoice got to 10 days overdue. But you can see here, I've got all of my to-do list listed in my calendar, as you can see here. I've also got my scheduled emails, so I can see what emails are due to go out today. And you can see here that we've got 2 emails that are due to go out today. One is a friendly overdue email, and one is a becoming due reminder. It tells me what the values are associated to those emails that are about to be sent as well. If I just move forward to tomorrow, see if we've got anything going tomorrow, just the one email tomorrow, and we'll try next Monday. What have we got next Monday? Next Monday, we've got quite a few emails to be sent, actually. 116 emails Credit Hound is about to send out for us on Monday. That equates to £166,000 it's chasing that currently isn't due, but more importantly, it's chasing £402,000 worth of payments that are due. Now, one thing I would say here very quickly is you'll see we've got an exclamation mark, and these customers' default contact either have an invalid or missing email address. The beauty of Credit Hound, and another area to the dashboard I skipped by previously, was that we can also help you to cleanse your data, because Credit Hound is only as good as the data you've got. So it can't currently chase this amount because we've got 24 customer email addresses that aren't correct. You might not be aware of that, but of course Credit Hound can highlight that to you, so you or your internal teams, your sales teams, your accounts team could chase this particular customer all day long. It's not going to matter because you can't simply get through to them. That email address is invalid. So again, gives you the opportunity to keep up to date with that. So that's Credit Hound, almost like an overview, a quick walkthrough. But if we jump into one of our customer accounts, we'll actually make a fictitious call, or we'll send an email in a moment as well. So let's pick Festival Homes, and we'll select one of these transactions. We'll go with this one for £16,614. Now, we've already seen from the activity log that it's had an automated chase email already, but this one was due on the 7th of October. In fact, it was due on the 6th of November, rather. So it's a month overdue now. So as a credit control team, you might want to pick up with this particular customer and understand why payment still hasn't been made. So on this occasion, we're going to log an activity. Now, again, I'm going to try and attempt to speak to the customer. So let's just say this morning that we've managed to speak to Maureen Duffy in this case. She's given us a reason, maybe that the invoice was not found. She's mislaid that, she couldn't find it, for example. She then tells us that she will promise to pay next week, for example. Okay, help if I could spell promise, wouldn't it? There we go. And we'll just say reference EBS here as well, so we can see there's no smoke and mirrors there. Now, she might, because she's promised to pay that balance next week, I'd also like to create a promise to pay, and we'll schedule that for next week. 14th of December is okay with me, and she's happy to pay the balance. I will make a note that she's going to pay by card, just so I can keep an eye out for it in our accounts package, and of course it was promised to me. Now, because in this example I don't particularly believe Maureen, I'm also going to create a follow-up task for me personally. So although she's promised it by the 14th, I'm going to create a task for me on the 15th, because if payment hasn't been made, I want to make sure I follow up with Maureen. And I'll click preview. Just gives me a preview of what I've logged there, and I'd also like to save that. Okay. Now, Credit Hound's also going to ask me if I'd like to follow up with an email just to confirm with Maureen the conversation that we've had. I don't want to this afternoon, but I will send an email in a moment. But I'm comfortable that she's taken that information on board. Now, if I go to my tasks list, I've of course now got to skip forward 7 days, but you'll see here's my follow-up call with Maureen Duffy, which was logged today, as you can see here, 7th of December, invoice not found, promise to pay next week. EBS was our reference, of course. I've got a task there, okay? Now, if Maureen does make payment on the Thursday, as I mentioned before, that task is automatically removed from here, okay? Now, if we jump back into the Festival Homes account, just by way of example, let's pick another one. So we'll say this one here. In fact, we'll go with this one. This one's severely overdue. This one is due on the 16th of October. Now, with this one, we're just going to send an email, because we're actually going to reference with this one that it's a final notice. Okay. Now, rather than me use one of the templates I've already got, I could just free type, as you would expect we would be able to do. I'm actually going to use our AI assistant, which is our newest feature within Credit Hound Cloud, and I'm going to say, can you write a final notice? So rather than, again, me use a template or have to write that email manually, I'm letting Credit Hound write that for me. Now, I can make it more assertive, I could shorten it, I could add some additional details in there, or I could make it more informal should I wish. I could go as far as saying, if the contact was, in this example, French, I could even say, please write in French, and of course it will convert that original message that it had composed for me into French, as you can see there. And once that's configured, once you are happy with it, if I just click use content, it will then populate the email before I click send and send that out, which I won't do this afternoon for demo purposes, but you can see how useful that feature would be for you, I'm sure. Now, I'm just going to click into the promises tab very, very quickly, because of course promises are something that are really useful for you, particularly when you're forecasting those payments due into the business. Now, you'll recall that we spoke to Festival Homes for an amount of £16,640. It was promised on this date, but it was promised next week, i.e. due in 7 days. Promise is currently open, of course, because she hasn't made payment, but I can keep track of all of those promises to pay, okay? And again, this can, as you would expect, I can use my filters, which we've touched on before, but I can export this information. So particularly if you're sitting down as a credit control team, presenting this to your finance director, to your CFO, or to board, to say, where are we with regards to our cash flow targets and cash collection targets? Or you could say, yes, our debt might be X, but actually as a credit control team, we've got £46,000 worth of promises to pay within the next 7 days. So, you can very much provide that information. That's really all I wanted to go through with you this morning. There are other areas to sort of Credit Hound Cloud that we can get into a little bit more kind of the nitty-gritty on, let's say, from a day-to-day usage point of view. But as an overview, where we've taken quite a bit of information on board this morning, but that's it from kind of a walk through of Credit Hound Cloud. As I mentioned, we have that free trial available to you for 30 days, or alternatively, myself and Darren would more than happy to schedule a call with you, more from a one-to-one demonstration point of view, where we can walk through that and understand a bit more about your credit control process. But yeah, unless there are any other questions, Darren, I think that's it from me, unless there was anything further that you wanted to add.
I have to say I'm blown away by the AI element. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So on the non-cloud version of Credit Hound, there are different types of licensing. Is that
Yes.
the same with this, or is that not?
No, I mean it's really straightforward. Actually, you do have your first user license type, and that's because it includes the one company, but then you'll simply charge for any additional users that you require. So your first user will always be more expensive, but any additional users would be charged would be charged separately. If you do have multiple companies within your Sage data set, then you'll notice here I've got UK demo company here, but I've also got my companies. So if you do have data set 1, 2, and 3, you would just buy an additional 2 companies as part of your license as well. That would give you the ability to see data set 1, i.e. company 1, all of the information pulled through directly through from, again, Sage 200 in my example, and I could just toggle between my data set 2 and 3, and again, or you might have different credit controllers that have different responsibility, of course, and would be in charge and responsible for the credit control for either one of those companies. But yeah, so very simply, first user license, additional user licenses, and a company license should you need it.
So it's a simpler licensing model as well.
It is, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it is, yeah.
So putting you on the spot, which do you prefer, cloud option or the standard option?
You have put me on the spot there, actually, Darren. And it's a recorded session as well. That's naughty of you. I'll be honest. I mean, Credit Hound has always been, as I've chewed your ears off in the past, it's always been my favourite product within our stack here at Draycir. However, because we are consistently adding new features and updates to Credit Hound Cloud, it's so easy to use. I have to say that Credit Hound Cloud is probably just in front now in terms of my preference. I have to say, love them both, but I just love the usability within Credit Hound Cloud, and hopefully I've been able to demonstrate that to you this morning about how easy it is to navigate and get access to that information that you need.
That's fabulous. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Ross for doing that this morning. I always, I'm never failed to be impressed by this, and I'd encourage all of you out there to, particularly with cost of living crisis and things like that, it's very important to sort of stay ahead of the game in terms of your debt or your debtors. Talk to us about this. Feel free to ask us about the free trial, and we'll take it from there. Again, thanks everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you all. Goodbye.